Trey Williams from TheWrap here at the Riot Vice Studio Lounge with Lulu Wang and Awkwafina. Do you prefer Awkwafina or Nora?
You can call me Awkwafina.
Okay.
We're here, but you can call me Nora.
But I can call you Nora.
You can call me Nora like after this, and we'll get some coffee.
Great, I love it.
You can call me Nora throughout that, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about, just sort of what this movie is about?
Yeah, the movie is about a Chinese-American woman who goes back to China to say goodbye to her dying grandmother, except that in the situation, the grandmother does not know that she's dying or even that she's sick, and the family has thrown a wedding for her cousin as a ruse to say goodbye to the grandmother. Yes.
And it's based on a true story.
Yes.
So what was that, like to take something, because I also listened to the podcast when it came out, a year or two ago.
Yeah.
To take something that was so deeply personal and emotional for you and put it on page and then on screen.
It's incredible because doing these Q&As, people have been asking, so what was fiction and what was real?
Right.
And I've been living with the fiction for as long as I've been living with the reality now. And, Awkwafina met my real life grandmother and we shot in her real town. And, we all sat around a table and had dumplings, with the fake mom and the real mom. And that everything starts to blend after a while. And there's something really beautiful and magical about that.
And I gotta say, Awkwafina, it was great to see you in a little bit more of a dramatic,
just a little bit.
Little bit more.
Yeah.
There are tears in this one.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
I definitely doubted myself at first. I didn't know if I would be able to do it justice, and I wanted to do it justice. I got to know Lulu's family really well. We were out in Changchun, and I met her real grandma.
Right.
And I think I did become emotionally invested in the character and in the story. It's so beautiful and moving, and I never thought that I would see a script like it in my career. I never thought. Yeah.
And when you say that you never thought that you'd see a script like it, what exactly do you mean by that?
You can't make up stuff like this. First of all, it's like you couldn't get a spec script on this and just be like, oh, that's a fun fiction story. This is real. It's coming from the heart. It's written from the heart. The characters are based on very multi-dimensional Asian people, almost to the point where they're accidentally Asian and they're just humans, And that really attracted me to it.
Curious, Lou, if you could talk about a little bit about the bringing that the Asian culture and whatnot in the movie, but also just having people relate to it and connect with it.
Yeah, I think very early in my career, everyone's like, you got to find your voice, you got to do something personal, and what does that mean, right? How do you go find your voice? Literally, what does that look like? And something personal, does that immediately mean something Asian when you're in America? Because if I was an Asian filmmaker, making something personal wouldn't mean being Asian, right?
Yep.
And so I struggled with that for a long time because I want to represent my family and friends and people that I know and myself on screen. I think it's really important, but at the same time, being Asian isn't enough to tell a story. And so when this came across, or not came across, but when it happened to me, it was the fact that, this is such a human story. It's about the love of the entire family for the matriarch. And I think it's a story that anybody who has immigrated or have parents who've immigrated, grandparents who have immigrated, or just have any kind of relatives abroad would relate to.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, it's a big point in the movie and also in movies like Crazy Rich Asians, and something that even as an African American that I've dealt with is this idea that you're Asian American, so you're kind of straddling this line of acceptance both in America and among
that
your Asian
journey's
family.
Real too.
Yeah. I'm curious, have you experienced that, and what is it like to sort of show that to the audience in the world?
Dash American person is going to experience that in their lives. They're going to feel something missing in both areas, right? And I think that we're made to feel a certain way when we're here. But I mean, it gets even more complicated when you go abroad. It's literally just taking an American person and putting them in a distant.
But then people assume when you go back to China that
there's a weird feeling of fitting in physically, right? You don't feel like you're different, but culturally you're still an anomaly. So that experience is real, and I think The Farewell really touches on that. You see the difference, and Billy, my character, I think that if you don't know China, she's a good conduit between them. You know what I mean? Because she has the mentality of someone who gets it, but doesn't really understand it at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, there's so many fish out of water stories, and the fish that's out of water is so much easier to represent visually if you're blonde in Asia, right? And so the challenge of this story was, how do we represent an American who isn't blonde and blue-eyed, going back to a country where she looks like everybody else, but she is a fish out of water?
Yeah.
Right.